Hi, this is Brendan Davis from Bedrock Games and the Bedrock blog, and I'm here with Dion and Adam, and we're here for another episode of Wuxia Weekend to talk about Flying Swords of Dragon Gate. This is a 2011 film directed by Tsui Hark. It stars Jet Li and Zhou Xun and Chen Kun, among many other people. It's got a very large cast, and this is a sort of it's kind of a sequel to the new Dragon Gate Inn, but also sort of a reimagining of the story as well. It's not. We'll talk about this, I think, right off the bat because it's one of the most important things to discuss. But it sort of occupies an odd space between remake and sequel, I would say, and there are a few reasons for that. But basically, it's set during the Ming Dynasty, and once again, corrupt officials and martial heroes sort of square off at the Dragon Gate Inn. And there's a lot more that goes on. In this one, they add in a whole thing about a city that's buried under the desert, and there's all kinds of sort of little plot twists, and there's an interesting change in this one where one of the characters has a body double, and that's used for a number of different effects, and also that the people working at the inn and the number of people who are guests at the inn are all in on a sort of big venture to take the treasure from this underground city beneath the desert. So I guess we can get into some of the details of the story, but I just wanted to know, before we even begin, do you guys consider this a sequel or do you consider it a remake based on what you saw?
I would go with more of a sequel because it's more of a continuation of the story from where we left off, or at least that's what I feel. Mm-hmm. And it's not, wouldn't say it's a remake as much because the characters really aren't the same. I've thought of it more as a sequel, with us finding out more of the history of the Dragon Gate Inn and what kind of makes it such a weird, special, interesting little town that's kind of cursed.
Yeah, it's definitely a sequel. There's no question that it's a sequel, but at the same time, it's one of those sequels where it really works to kind of put characters in a very similar position and the exact same place where they were last time. So I know what you're saying. It's in a weird place between them because it's what would be the term? It's a sequel that's trying to do the same situation, but with a little more, but on a bigger. Well, I don't know. I don't know if it's a bigger scale, but it's somehow it was more larger than life than each version. Each movie in this kind of this loose trilogy has gotten larger in its version of reality, I think.
Well, and this one has enormous special effects too.
Yeah,
so
that's what I tried to say. Yes.
And there's kind of like a specter of the old Dragon Gate Inns that you can find in this movie. There's something about the other movies that kind of hangs over this one. Mm-hmm. Not to make this one lesser than the others, because I think they're all good, and I love the way that they've developed the story of this little creepy place over time. It's something about the others hangs over this one, and we get a little kind of a story from the last movie of the last owner. So it's just, I don't know, it's kind of a weird kind of movie in that I think you're right. You don't know if it's a sequel or you don't know if it's a remake, but I think it's more of a sequel.
Yeah, there were moments I think that were even a callback to the original movie, not the one this is a sequel to, but the one that the previous movie was a remake of. There was definitely one point where it may have just been me, but I felt like some of it was a commentary. Not a commentary is too strong a term, but a reference at least.
Which section of the movie were you thinking of?
Well, it's a line really. During the scene when they're in the underground city, and they're fighting the eunuch, and and he says to them, "Oh, is it really an advantage to have more people?" You know, and I thought back to when we watched the original, and they all at the end, you know, team up to fight the eunuch, and they die. And what really made me remember it was Kenny making the joke during the podcast when we reviewed it. And he's like, "Yeah, they didn't follow the wuxia rule. You don't want to be the guys all ganging up on one person. That's how you die." And so the eunuch in this movie making that comment, boy, is it really an advantage to you know have the numbers? You know, it made me think of Kenny's comment, which made me think of that first movie. Like I said, it might be completely me connecting the two, but it felt like a reference to me somehow.
No, there's a lot of references. There's a lot of structural similarities too, like the whole thing where the eunuch sort of processionally has to get to the inn. Do you know what I mean? Like
that's true.
In the first one, that's clearly part of the movie because the whole movie he's traveling to the inn basically.
Right.
And in the New Dragon, it's the same thing. You don't really see Donnie Yen until the end. He's kind of traveling to the inn, you know, most of the movie. And so, you know, this one, you know, and there's even that there's like a conscious moment where he goes outside and he puts the sand screen over his face and, you know, heads out to go to the inn. It's got a similar feel, but the twist is, when he gets there, it's not actually him; it's his imposter.
Yes,
right.
And so there's like a little twist to everything, but also the scene during the sandstorm when or when it's sort of the sandstorm is building, and what was her name? Gu Xiaotong, I think her name was, and Windblade both arrive in the middle of the night, and it's kind of similar to the brother and sister from the first one that arrived. And there's even the same scene with the poison and the sword with the bowl of wine on it, you know?
Yes.
So, I mean, it plays out very differently, but it's similar. And in this one, the Tartars are quite different as well. You know?
Yeah. That's an interesting bunch of people.
Yeah, that's to me, that's one of the highlights of the movie. I really enjoyed the Tartars in this one. Or I don't know if they were in the credits here. They just call her the tribal princess, and they were kind of, the subs didn't seem totally consistent with exactly what they were supposed to be. But yeah. So what do you guys think? Sorry.
I was gonna say the subs I had very specifically referenced Tartar, and there were points where it was just saying she was speaking Tartar and stuff. So I don't know, but that doesn't. I mean, you know, subs aren't always accurate anyway.
But so we'll go with Tartar. But what did you guys think of the movie? Did you enjoy it, and where would you rank it against the other two Dragon Inn movies?
I enjoyed the movie. I thought it was great, and I think they each have their charm. And even with the special effects of this one, it holds its own against the others. There are, like we already discussed, very distinct similarities and references to the previous movies, but it also has its own merits that allow it to stay on the same playing field with the other two. I think it's a phenomenal movie, and even if you didn't watch the other two, you would still enjoy it.
Yeah, I like the movie, definitely. I don't know that I was like as drawn into it as the previous two, because it's because at this point it's almost kind of meta to an extent, but it's a fun movie, even if I wasn't like emotionally drawn into the story as much as the previous ones.
Yeah, and this is again, this is one of my favorite movies. I really like this one. In fact, you know, that's the title of the game, Wandering Heroes of Ogregate, is specifically modeled after that. That's how much I enjoyed it. And Haiyan comes from the character name. But I do have to say, I do agree with you that there is like a barrier to this one that isn't in the other two. And I don't know what it is, but there's something. I think it might just be a product of the period when it was made. Do you know what I mean? It's just maybe that sort of more languid, longer form style of telling a story in a movie. But it just feels a little bit harder to enter than the other two films. I think New Dragon Gate Inn has like all this humor flowing through it, and that really kind of helps bring you into the movie. And the first movie is just so good at getting that sort of, I don't know what you would call it, but like that Western style suspense and Mexican standoff thing. This one does it too, but there's so much else going on that you can kind of get confused by it. I feel like the most compelling part of this movie is actually the storyline between Jade, I think she's got another name too, Ling Yang-chi or Ling Yang-chu. I don't know how to pronounce it, but the character played by Zhou Xun, who we also saw in Painted Skin, and I think we've seen her in a couple of other movies as well. But the storyline with her, she's basically the Maggie Chung character from the previous Dragon Inn movie, and they couldn't be more different in terms of how they're portrayed. And so she's kind of gone from being this really flirtatious, like charming, I don't know how you would just like, it's impossible to really encapsulate that Maggie Chung character in just a brief description, but from going from that really sort of bright character to this much more subdued martial hero who's very serious and seems to be in love with Zhao Huaiyan, but it doesn't seem to be a love that can be fulfilled for some reason, probably because of the death of the Bridget Lin character. So I don't know. What did you guys think of that love story that was in there?
I thought it was. I agree with you. It was the most emotionally engaging, but it still didn't quite. I don't know. Ever pay off for me in some sense. It's like, it's kind of interesting because it ends on a very unresolved note. He like goes off after and which, I mean, I guess it was unresolved at the he had an unresolved ending last movie, but I thought the unresolved ending of the last movie worked better than the lack of resolution here.
Well, for me, the lack of resolution maybe hinted to maybe there being something else to come later. Maybe those two will continue travels, not necessarily together, but kind of like stalking each other.
Yeah. Stalking each other is the word.
Yeah, I don't know if stalking's the right word because I don't know. They just seem to meet up, and it seems like this wasn't the first time that they've met up. But I understand your point, Brendan. I think for me, I was most emotionally drawn into it because I wanted those two characters to end up together at the end, and then I was angry that they didn't, but then I'm thinking maybe there's something else to come that would be nice, because I like the Dragon Gate movies. I would like to see how it turns, how this I keep calling it a creepy little town because that's just the feeling I got with all the story that's built up with it, and the legend and the burying in the sand and all that.
And the cannibalism. I mean,
oh yeah,
there's layers of creepiness going on.
Yeah,
exactly.
Well,
and who's going to take it over next? You know, just I don't know. It just seems like there's more to this story to be told.
Well, it's very ambiguous because number one, I don't think does she really. Well, I guess she does confirm who she is, but she doesn't actually necessarily say it specifically. But you don't know. You don't know if they end up together. You don't even know if she ends up alive at the end of this. You know what I mean? We're told that she had this horrible injury and that she went off to die on her own. But then it's not totally clear that that's actually what's happening either. And he goes after her, and then the other two go back to what's her name, Consort Wan.
Yes.
And which is, I don't know. Actually, well, I want to talk about Consort Wan in a moment, but yeah, I think the love story is very ambiguous and unresolved.
You're right. We're not sure what's really happening because they tell Zhao Huan that it's that she said she was really badly wounded and she went off to die, but then we jump to a flashback of her talking to them when she's going away and she's saying something different. She's kind of, so you're right that it's my takeaway is that she wasn't dying, but
but I don't know. But there's also, I've been debating that in my head all week, and one of the things you see is when she turns around to ride away, she's clearly terribly injured because she's like, like all kind of limp and stuff as the horse is hopping along, or not hopping, whatever horses do, galloping along.
Gallop.
But that woman, Su Hui Rong, the sort of the pregnant woman who turns out to be a killer assassin from the Imperial agents, she shanks her like she stabs her a bunch of times in like the kidney area. It was not.
Yeah, that's true.
It was a really. I don't think I've seen that kind of stabbing done in a wuxia movie ever. It was
that was prison movie style.
Yeah, yeah. This was like I'm gonna kill you, so I don't know. And I'm still debating it. Like it's still like it was a very serious injury, but Zhao Huayan seems so optimistic that maybe he knows something we don't know. So yeah, it's a little bit ambiguous, but yeah, what did, just because it did come up, what did you guys think of Royal Consort Wan and the whole there's an important connection to the rest of the story with it, but what did you guys think?
I like the character. I honestly, though, I think we could have used maybe some scenes checking in with her in the movie at some point, because it's like she kind of seems like an important character early on. Then the movie just forgets her for the entire run. Then the end of the movie is her, getting taken down. It's just like, oh yeah, I'd forgotten this character existed. And then she's dead. So I feel like maybe one or two extra scenes with her would have made that land a little better. But she's still a good character.
Yeah, she was very interesting. Just the little bit that we saw of her, you could tell that she was definitely had something going on with the eunuch. And then at the end, she's clearly thinking that it's her same old eunuch who's returned, but it's the bottom double who now wants to take over the old eunuch's position, but not be actually a eunuch.
Yeah.
So, she looked like she would have been a fun character if they would have followed her a little bit more. I liked her kind of, I don't know, silliness to her. She was kind of over-exaggerated, being that she was just a concubine and wanted to be the head of everything. But, I liked her. I thought we were going to get more with her like Adam did, and then I felt shortchanged because we didn't.
Yep. No, and she's a real historical figure, and I agree. She has that great line where she's seducing the eunuch, and then he tells her about the servants who have been found to be pregnant, and she says, who are these hussies that let men take advantage of them? And just as she's like trying to seduce this guy, and but the actress who plays her is Zhang Xinyu, who's also known as Vian Zhang, and she was in the 2014 Return of Condor Heroes as Li Mocho, and so I thought that might interest you, Adam, just because
I could see her playing that part without a doubt. Yeah.
But the reason why I find this part of the movie so intriguing is she clearly has something going on with the eunuch, and the eunuch is played by Chen Kun, and it's eunuch.
I love him.
Yeah, he was really good in this. I want to talk about him in a moment. But one thing I want to know about his character is he really a eunuch? Like he's.
I wondered that the whole entire time. I watched it 3 times, and I'm like, he's not really a eunuch. He can't be. Because
she's so in love with him. I get that there are other ways that there are other things that could be happening that would explain it. But he also seems really vital compared to the other eunuchs. Like he does not, like he's pushing all the other eunuchs around. The first eunuch we see in the movie is played by Gordon Liu, and he's like decrepit and gorged himself on pickled human body parts, and just basically dies, and like he doesn't even draw his sword. He's so ineffectual, and I feel like there's something unique about this eunuch. and the thing that I'm wondering is maybe he's not really a eunuch, or maybe he's somehow found a way to restore himself. Like, remember the guy in Reign of Assassins was trying to restore himself. Maybe he's found some. There's just like this concubine is way too into him for me to not suspect that he might not be a eunuch.
But no, I mean, that alone wouldn't be enough. But you make a really good point that he just doesn't have any of that air of a Wuxia movie eunuch to him.
Yeah.
He doesn't have that air about him. So yeah. So I think you're onto something there.
I totally agree. He was too virile. To be a eunuch, he obviously still had some parts, some very working parts. His strength and his vitality, and he was not like weak or feminine in any little bit. Even though Gordon was an older eunuch, you could tell that the way he played it was definitely a eunuch. Our friend Chen Kun, no, his character was not a eunuch. He can't possibly be a eunuch.
Yeah, he just, there was just something about him, and that Gordon Liu performance was great. I know a lot of people complain
awesome.
that he gets slaughtered by Jet Li, but like I saw him. He was kind of bringing some of that, like, that humorous edge that he has in some of his other movies. You know,
I agree.
It really worked. There's this one moment he makes this one little expression, like a humph, when somebody displeases him, and it was so perfect. But yeah, the Chen Kun character, I think the thing I really liked about him is, number one, he didn't have to do a lot to be a convincing martial artist in this, because he was just sort of, it was almost like he just had presence. Do you know what I mean? He was like a lot of his martial arts, they didn't need him to be doing the Jet Li stuff, and it's probably wise. Like, you don't necessarily want this guy to have to compare with Jet Li, who's like a real, just has ages of experience. So they seem to lean more on him, kind of with just a very subtle gesture. He can send, bits flying at you, and he's more about the stances and the posturing,
and the inner power.
Yeah,
it's more about the inner power.
Yeah, because he's using that thing where he barely touches the ground, and like chips of stone go up at your enemies. But what I liked about him was the dead calm. He just had this dead calm about him that was really unnerving, and it worked really well, so that you always knew as an audience member, except for that one crucial moment when he deceives his own men, or when he deceives the eunuch's own men, you could tell who when he was Windblade or when he was Eunuch Yu. Because when he was Windblade and he was acting like the eunuch, he would fly off the handle in ways that the eunuch never really would.
He was. It's almost to a fault that he plays them as such different characters that it actually took me a little bit of the movie to realize they looked alike. Because it was the same actor. I didn't pick up on it because I'm like, oh, there's two totally different characters, and I'm like, oh, and people start reacting like, oh, okay, yeah, it's the same guy playing both parts.
Well, and that's the other. Oh, go ahead, Dion.
When Windblade first walked into the inn, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, the eunuch's gone in as a secret agent just to check up on his men to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. He's kind of like in disguise, but not in disguise.
Yep.
But then he wasn't really acting like the eunuch. Like you said, he didn't have that calm demeanor, and he was kind of like, I don't know, very immature and very, not skittish, but kind of nervous and on edge, kind of. But the eunuch is so calm, and it was just totally complete different personalities. Then I got all confused.
Yeah, no, I mean, and again, he's playing two different characters, and it's funny because we really do almost want to talk about them like they're separate characters, like it's or like they're separate actors. Do you know what I mean? Like, like we're talking about his performance as Eunuch Yu, and we don't even think to talk about the Windblade initially. It's so I think he did a really good job here, and I think it also is interesting because there's so much in this movie that revolves around identity like that. Like there's that character where it's just like there's an actual person that has the same face as him, but then there's the Su Hirong character who is like the damsel in distress, but really like a secret assassin, and then there's the Jade character who adopts Zhou Haiyan's identity. You know, she's going around rescuing people, telling everybody that she's him in order to lure him out, I guess. You know, and not just that, but even more, the Tartars are really there because they're part of this whole operation to steal the treasure. Same with the people working at the inn. And so like it's just like there's all these layers of identity going on with these characters, and it's kind of again, maybe that's the thing that you were talking about earlier, Adam, which is like you couldn't emotionally connect with it the same way as the other movies.
Yeah, when a movie gets too clever, sometimes it kind of puts you in kind of a defensive mode. But yeah, I mean, there are lots of clever layers, like her, you know, impersonating Zhao Huan, and that leads her into picking up the pregnant, you know, maid who's running away because she's impersonating him, but it's really a trap laid for him.
Yeah.
So then, you get a very, very, very strange situation there.
And then at the end, Windblade goes back and pretends to be the eunuch, like we were saying, and so it's all this, this full circle. But yeah, I don't know. But it's the thing that really sets this, I think, apart from the other Dragon Inn movies is the use of effects and the fact that it kind of feels more like an adventure film. Do you know what I mean? Like there's kind of a Spielberg or like Indiana Jones type thing going on at the end of the movie that really, kind of defines the film. But what did you guys think of the blend of special effects with the fight choreography?
I enjoyed the fight choreography blended with the special effects, especially when it came to Eunuch Yu, because I like that they did not have him doing all the flips and the turns and all the magnificent stuff that they had the other characters do. It really set him apart as being powerful, but not necessarily having to be powerful through moves. But his power came with more of the manipulation of the people and the manipulation of the situation. Plus, he also had the inner power that the others didn't seem to have, where he didn't have to, like we said earlier, just light touches created heavy destruction. So I liked it. It was great distinguishing between the different characters also.
Yeah, I agree with you on the whole inner power thing. It works well for someone that's an authority figure, that, you know, he the role he has in the movie, it really suited him. And yeah, on the whole, I like the effects in this a lot. I mean, I'm sure some people would harp on the fact that, you know, some of it is very obviously CGI, but I'm fine with that. What's happening is really fun and entertaining, and so that didn't really bother me.
Yeah, there definitely are people that took, like, when it first came out, I remember some people complaining about the effects and how it kind of it didn't give the fights a sense of gravity, maybe, or it took away from some of the performance. But you know, now that it's been out for almost 10 years, I mean, not almost 10 years, but like, what is it, like 7 years or 8 years, or, you know, it's been out for a while now. Going back to it, I feel like it's number one, Choi Hark, that's what he does. He blends special effects with regular stuff, and he's not at all hesitant to do so, and he'll do it even when it's probably ill advised, just because he's gonna do it. Do you know what I mean?
He's gotta do it.
Yeah. So there are moments in the movie when the special effects do break down. Like there's the the tribal princess scene when she's flipping around, the special effects actually kind of break down a little bit in that scene, and it sort of deflates some of what they're going for. But then a moment later, it's totally working. And in the opening sequence with Gordon Lowe, when Jet Li and his men first arrive on scene, that it allows them to reach such heights in terms of, defying gravity and using the lightness kung fu, but it keeps going back to the fact that they're really good at doing the actual sword fighting too. So it's like wire effects on speed or something. Do you know what I mean? It just it can take it to a new level. So I enjoyed it on that front. And I also feel like, and again, I don't know what the title actually means in Chinese, but the title in English is Flying Swords of Dragon Gate, and so I feel like it really delivers on that title.
Yeah, and I agree with you. It's like the fact that it's a Choi Hark movie. It's like there's just a sensibility you get with Choi Hark, and it's like if it overindulges a little bit here and there in special effects, it's like that's fine. That's just that's what you go to see a Choi Hark movie for. So I was prepared for that, and I think on the whole he's someone that can get away with it.
And what did you guys think of the final battle? I guess it's a really long final battle in all of these movies. In this one, it's kind of interesting because they sort of trick the officials into slaughtering each other, and then there's and then we get the real big fight. But it culminates with Zhu Huaiyan and Eunuch Yu fighting in a tornado, basically like a sand tornado. And then they get dropped into the city, and then that's when we have the full on sort of big battle between everybody. But specifically, I want to know what people think of the tornado duel, and then we can get into sort of the underground city element of the movie.
Yeah, I have to admit, I liked the tornado battle scene, and I did have Wizard of Oz going through my head during that scene. I feel like it's intentional. I feel like some of the objects spinning around and stuff. I thought he's totally riffing on Wizard of Oz here, even as this fight scene is going on in there. But that's great. I like that. I mean, that's the kind of fun thing you want in a Choi Hark movie. So
yeah, I liked the tornado scene. I liked all the fights, including the end. Unlike Adam, I didn't get the Wizard of Oz. I don't know. I had Sharknado. But that's
a valid reference.
I was thinking more recently, I guess. But yeah, I thought it was great special effects in that scene.
Yeah, that scene I thought was really cool, and I just like the idea of these two men agree to fight in a tornado. Like that's like there's something like deeply honorable about it, but also just enormously ballsy. Just like the idea that we're gonna fight inside of this tornado. I don't know. That it just it sort of gets at sort of the fact that they're two equally matched opponents, and the only dignified way for them to handle this is to fight inside of this sand tornado. But I guess that does lead us to the culmination of the movie, which is in this underground city where all kinds of things happen, and it's almost dizzying. There's sort of the treasure, there's the betrayal, there's the fight up the, for lack of a better word, I don't know, the wooden framework thing, the what would you call it? It's almost like scaffolding.
I think scaffolding's an appropriate word.
With the golden threads that are like cutting people's limbs off and stuff. Like there's just so much going on here. How'd you guys feel about that?
Yeah, I really like the fact that the way basically the final battle, like you mentioned, kind of starts when they have that four-pronged attack going on the inn from outside after they've lured the bad guys in there. But I like the way it just continues, and the whole exploring the city thing is kind of a continuation of that fight that goes through the whole thing. It's a lot of movies would have split those up into two separate things or whatever, but it's all just pretty seamlessly one action sequence, which was a great approach.
It's like a ride, basically.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that was definitely Raiders of the Lost Ark-ish to me, going throughout the whole city to fight. I thought it was cool. It seems lately we've been watching movies where there have been some interesting golden or silver threads that harm people in them.
That's
and
true.
I still think that's it's pretty cool to see that. I don't know why, but just something so inanimate that you really don't think about that usually holds something together is tearing limbs apart. The what do you call that, paradox of an item?
Yeah,
it has the holding something together, but yet you can tear it apart with it. I think that's just pretty cool idea to use. I don't know if they really thought that deep into it, but I just think that whole scene and trying to get the eunuch trying to get everybody to go against each other, and like Adam said,
yes.
you don't want to be the fighting against that last man standing. But in this one it kind of works out differently for the group. So I thought it was really, really cool fight at the end.
No, and I really like the discussion they have where the eunuch's trying to pit them against each other, and it's kind of that back and forth there. That was a really well written scene, I think.
Well, it's that whole shifting alliance thing that happens, and will they switch over with the eunuch? You don't know.
Yeah.
And and the thing with the golden thread, I think there's a few reasons that's so intriguing and painful. Number one, like when you see that stuff, like you cringe, like you see the Tartar's limb go into it a little bit, like it cuts into his calf or something, and you can almost feel it, and it just creates this real sense of danger in the scene that wouldn't have been there. Like the fact that like it's almost, what it is. These swordsmen, the thing that really defines Zhao Huayan is his ability to defy gravity and fly around and spin, and do you know what I mean? He can do all these things, and the golden thread is like the perfect counter to that, because it immediately puts him in the most danger, because that's his whole style up into this has been he flips around and he just kind of recklessly leaps across beams and does all these things, and now suddenly there are these threads that might cut him in half if he isn't careful in applying that lightness kung fu skill. So it just, I don't know, just to me it just adds this real sense of suspense to the scene. But yeah, so I don't know. Were there any other aspects of the movie that we didn't discuss that you guys think we should talk about? Like any scenes or any themes or anything like that?
Well, going back to the final fight, I liked how the eunuch was earlier in the film. They brought the tablets of the name of the gate of the town to the eunuch. So I thought that he was going to figure out that there was something else mystical about this town. Mm-hmm. But then when they got to the town and they had the sandstorm and they end up in the hidden temple, it was like he had this shocked look on his face, like, wow, there's something else here, like he never knew. And I thought that was pretty awesome that he was the only one in that whole situation that didn't know that there was a hidden town that would be revealed by the sandstorm. and you could possibly get rich. But then he figured it out pretty quickly. He was like, oh, I can get, pit these people against each other because obviously they're here for the money. I just want everyone dead.
Yeah, it is worth commenting on how far this movie has gone since the original one. Because the original one did feel it was on the very realistic end of wuxia. Yeah. It's just like this movie that you could see it as kind of a historical movie. there is over the top stuff in it, but it's very mild compared to this, and it's like we've just gone along this continuum to the far other side of wuxia by this movie.
No, the style has evolved, the story has evolved a lot. The other one is much more methodical in its pacing. This one is still kind of, it's still, I would say, on the slow side as far as wuxia movies go.
It was slower than the previous one, I think.
Yeah.
At least in having not watched it. The second one was a very fast paced movie, I think.
Yeah, the second one had like a 90s kind of just everything was kind of moving forward and surprising, and this one is sort of almost like a going back in terms of its pacing, but you're right, like the style could not be more different than
than the original. I would say, for someone that hasn't taken in a lot of wuxia, probably the second one is probably the most accessible one to just sit down and watch, I would say. But I'm not certain which is my favorite, because I really did like the first one a lot.
It depends on the person. If you're trying to give somebody an introduction to wuxia, if they're sort of into artsy movies, then I would recommend the first Dragon Inn movie. But if they're not, then I would definitely recommend the second one. I think that's the way to go. That's often the case with a lot of these movies, especially like King Hu just kind of has that, like, if you will eventually get to touch a Zen, I promise. And there are a couple of others that we might get to as well if we're lucky. But I think it's sort of like the same thing with like Ashes of Time, right? You wouldn't recommend that one to everybody. That one I'd really be reserved to recommend.
Right.
I like the original Dragon Gate Inn more than I liked Ashes of Time.
Yeah, Ashes of Time is an unusual one, to say the least. But okay, so this movie is filled with characters. Like the Dragon Inn movies have characters usually, but this one feels like it's really got a lot of characters in it. I'm just curious. Number one, is that okay? Like, were there too many characters? But number two, of all the characters, who were your favorite characters?
I think there was an abundance of characters, and sometimes that there can be too many characters. And I think in this movie might have been bordering on that, especially since the eunuchs men were so prominent. They had their different scars and things wrong with them. So you try to keep track of them too, because he had, 3 or 4 top men with the scarred faces that I felt were important. So I was trying to keep track of them. But
one of them was bald, one of them had a face mask, and one of them just had a real stunned look on his face the whole time. But otherwise, he had a normal hairdo and everything.
Well, the one with the face mask, he had 2 different colored eyes?
Yes, that was the one. That's Ma Jinliang, who was played by Fan Sui Huang, who I think was in, wasn't he in Chinese Ghost Story, the most recent version that we saw? Pretty sure he was.
I don't remember.
I'll look it up while we're talking, just to confirm it or not. But I'm pretty sure he was.
Then you had the Tartars.
Mm-hmm.
Two... I really miss Donnie Yen's character's 2 buddies from the beginning of the movie. They went out so fast.
Yeah, I know. When they went down, I was disappointed.
You didn't get to spend a lot of time with them.
Yeah, I felt the exact same thing when they went down. I'm like, I wasn't ready for that to go. But yeah, I think on some level, if if there'd been central characters that I connected with more strongly through the whole thing, that were more directly the main characters, I might have been okay with this many characters.
Mm-hmm.
But because I never truly latched onto any character that I was really involved with. So, and it's not like the characters were bad. It's just, I don't know, just the structure of the movie. I didn't ever latch onto anything. So I think you can get away with having this many characters, but it's a really hard thing to pull off.
Yeah. Now, Adam, did you happen to say who your favorites were of them, or?
I didn't. That's a good question. I think Chen Kun's eunuch is a candidate, definitely. I mean, honestly,
Dion is nodding very enthusiastically to that one.
Yeah. I mean, he's good, but I mean, even though he's got such a small part, it's like Gordon Liu's character was just fantastic.
Yeah.
I mean, just that it's tough to say he's my favorite just because he does just have the one scene, but man, he really made the most of that one scene. So I don't know, who's your favorite?
Are you asking me or Dion?
Oh yeah, that's true. Well, I'm asking you, Brendan.
Oh, okay. I think I have to admit it was the tribal princess. I think the actress's name is Gwei Lun-mei. I just really liked her. But I think in terms of like really impressive performance and stuff, I do think Chen Kun really won me over in this movie in that respect. And I think that I think that Jet Li, just for the physical fighting performance more than anything else, just the I think having him in this movie was really, really important. And also I think the guy who played Ma Jianling was good with the physical performance stuff too. I thought that and I did check it out. He was in a Chinese ghost story. I don't know if I mentioned that. But yeah, I would say the tribal princess. She kind of stole my heart with that that scene when she was rebuking the imperial officials.
Jet Li is definitely good in it too. And I mean, I'm not calling him out especially because Jet Li is just always good. And it's like, like, so he just wasn't, absolutely amazing in this. So I'm giving someone else the spotlight.
Well, and with the Chen Kun character, the thing that I really believed that this guy could shatter walls with a finger twitch. Do you know what I mean? He just did a great job of. It's like you could feel this energy reserve building in the guy, and it was.
Yeah, it's easy to say, oh, they're just having him flick his finger or something, but doing that kind of thing in a way that sells it it's really good acting. I mean, because that kind of thing can totally fall flat if you don't do it right.
It reminded me a little bit of Brigitte Lin's manner when she's in a lot of these movies, where she's really good at kind of conveying that sort of I have all the power. And
Yes.
So Dion, did you say who your favorites were?
Well, my favorite actor, like everyone said, Jet Li is always great whenever he's in. But I think Chen Kun has definitely stole my heart. I had to stop the movie when he came on the screen the first time. I was like, I remember him from somewhere, and I went to his biography to see what other movies we had seen him in, and he just gets better each movie that I see him in. But his performance of Eunuch Yu, oh my goodness, I thought it was the best in the whole movie. And I like Windblade too, because I didn't know which way he was going to go. Was he going to be this good character? Was he going to be a slimy character? Was he going to be somewhere in the middle? And I didn't know which woman he was going to be most interested in either. But he wasn't a real womanizer. He just, the pretty women just liked him, and he liked the attention. Well, what
we know is he was dating that one girl, right? He was dating I can't remember the Gu Xiaotong, and then he ended up with the tribal princess who was really like Zhao Wen or something, and you know, obviously concubine Wan liked him, and even briefly I feel like that he had a moment with Mavis Fan's character Su Huirong, the one who ends up betraying them, because isn't he the one that like takes her to the underground city at the end? Like, doesn't he ride by on the horse and grab her and say, "I wouldn't leave you behind" or something?
Yeah, I think so.
So I feel like there is something to be said for the ladies' man angle with that character. But and also that's his big thing. He trades information in the Zhang. So I imagine he's probably very, very good at sort of the social aspects of.
Oh yeah, he's very charming.
Yeah, and I don't think he's kind of not really a martial character, right? Like, we don't really know what his capabilities are, but the movie seems to suggest that he's not like very skilled at the martial arts, right?
I don't know. I didn't quite pick up on that either way, actually.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah, his martial ability wasn't really focused on. His more charming aspects were the focus, being that he was an informant and could get information easily. I thought he had some talent, just not as much as everyone else.
So we are coming up on the 50-minute mark here. So I think we should probably head out. But is there any parting thoughts before we go? Is there anything you guys wanted to add?
No, I think I've gotten everything I have to say in.
Yeah, me too. I liked the film. It was good. I hope there would be another one in the future to come, but you never know.
I mean, it is Choi Hark, so you know it's conceivable he'll do a sequel. We'll see. I think it would be interesting, and I think that it'd be nice to see what direction they end up going. And I don't know, maybe they could bring back some of the other people from the new Dragon Gate movie. They could always do something like that this time around. So. I enjoy the movie, and this is one, if you want to see it, I don't think it's on Netflix or Prime at the moment. I think you'd actually have to get the DVD. I have the DVD, and something that we didn't even talk about that's probably worth mentioning. This was actually filmed in 3D, and if you have a 3D television, you can the version I have is a 3D, but I don't have a 3D TV, so I've never actually been able to see it in the full 3D effect, and that probably is something we should have mentioned at the start, because that probably would impact a person's perception of the movie, because they clearly are doing things that are 3D oriented in the film.
Yeah, I can see that in retrospect, definitely.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think it played in the theater in the U.S., at least not anywhere around me. Maybe like one theater in Boston, if that. But a lot of people do have 3D televisions now, or some people do. So you can still watch it in 3D if you have that. But yeah, so we'll be back on next week. I'm not sure which film we're going to be watching, but it'll be a continuation of the movies with swords in the title, which we've discovered there's an overabundance of. So we'll be able to do about a month and a half of this. And until then, we will talk to you later.